This is Shenandoah's house, this is my home, and my name is Wayne Newton. What makes a man lose everything after having sold out shows with screaming fans? It was said that he had the smoothest voice, the most beautiful clothes, and was known as Mr. Las Vegas. That's not all Wayne Newton was. He was also something more amazing. But while everyone was happy for him, something very sad and upsetting was going on behind the scenes. The people who took Wayne's money took a long time and hurt him a lot, and what seemed like success on the outside was actually years of stress over money and growing debt. Wayne Newton is 83 years old and still hasn't fully returned from the terrible lows he went through with his money. If you look more closely, you'll see that this tale has a story that hasn't been told all the way through until now. How Mr. Las Vegas got famous. Wayne Newton was born in Norfolk, Virginia in 1942. He didn't come from a wealthy or fancy family, but his roots were deep in culture and desire. Wayne's family tree is a mix of Cherokee and German, so his early life was not very exciting. They didn't have much, but his family was kind and smart. The moment Wayne could walk, he would use this talent, which would set the stage for a job that would make him a superstar. Wayne was already acting with his brother when he was only 6 years old. The Newton brothers had big plans. They made noise in their home state of Virginia before taking a big step and moving to Phoenix, Arizona, where they started to book shows in their area. Young Wayne had no idea that this choice would be the first of many that would make him one of the most famous people in Las Vegas. Wayne's big break came in 1962 when he made his national TV debut on The Jackie Gleason Show. At the time, this show was the best in American theater, and being on it was like getting a golden ticket. People fell in love with Wayne's signature charm and velvety voice here for the first time. He stood out from his peers right away because of how well he spoke and how interesting he was on stage. Wayne Newton was no longer just a hopeful singer by the early 1960s. Everyone knew his name. Capitol Records signed him, and his hits like Duncan Schoen did more than just break the charts. They became part of everyday life. Duncan Schoen did a lot more than just do well. It was a sentence. This proved Wayne's ability to connect with people of all ages, and this is what made him famous all over the world from a neighborhood star. Wayne didn't stop there, though. His collection showed that he was talented in many areas. Wayne was one of the most popular performers in Las Vegas by the 1970s. He performed several nights a week, and when he was at the top of his game, he held the record for the most people who saw him in one night. That's it. He made Las Vegas his second home. Wayne was not like every other act in Las Vegas. He was an important part of life in Las Vegas. People flocked to see him act. The city's lights were his stage. Wayne Newton's name became so connected to the Las Vegas Strip that he was often called Mr. Las Vegas. Throughout many years, he was an important part of the city's entertainment scene, and both fans and fellow artists looked up to him. However, Wayne's fame wasn't just based on his voice. His fans loved him because of his name. Wayne had a great sense of style, a lot of charm, and a strong bond with the city that gave him so much. He finally became one of the most well-known and loved people in the city. But while Wayne was getting better, something worse was beginning to happen below the surface. Not long after that, Wayne's finances started to fall apart in ways that no one could have seen coming. Deals that are dangerous and dark shadows. Early in the 1980s, Wayne Newton had already made a name for himself as the entertainment king of Las Vegas. His fame went beyond his music business, but Newton went after even more money and power, which led him into much more dangerous areas than the glamorous world of show business. Wayne planned one of the biggest moves of his career in 1980. He chose to buy the famous Aladdin Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. The Aladdin wasn't just any hotel, it was a sign of how fancy Las Vegas was. Wayne would be remembered not only as a show, but also as a real city mogul if he owned it. However, things were never as easy as they seemed in this or any other well-known business deal. Wayne started working with different partners, one of whom was a man named Guido Penosi, to make sure the deal would go through, who was said to have ties to organized crime. It's not like Penosi was any other investor. He was said to have ties to the mob, especially to people who worked behind the scenes in Las Vegas. The link between the two would come back to bite Newton. Things went wrong in 1980. An investigation story on NBC showed the link between Wayne Newton and organized crime. According to the network's report, Wayne may have bought the Aladdin with the help of a gangster like Penosi. This wasn't a small charge. People in Las Vegas were known to have ties to the mob, and the idea that a well-known performer might be involved in such shady business shocked many of his fans. The story made the news and showed Wayne as someone whose fame had become linked to the criminal underground. It goes without saying that Newton didn't like these claims. He sued NBC right away for libel, not only saying that the network's story was false, but also saying that it hurt his carefully crafted image. After a long court case, Wayne was first given $19,300,000 in damages. In the end, though, the amount was lowered to $5,200,000, and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal overturned the whole ruling. But Wayne's image was already in bad shape. People were beginning to question because of the accusations. It became clear that the clean-cut and charming artist might not have been following the rules, and some people began to wonder if there were sneaky forces behind his success. The accusations were not just bad things said about him. They changed Wayne Newton's career in a big way. He went from being a showman who seemed honest to being talked about in terms of shady deals and unclear business practices. He was much more than just a performer. He knew people who worked in the dangerous world of organized crime. People were talking about more than just his voice and charm all of a sudden. They wanted to know how far he had gone to become one of Las Vegas's most famous people. No matter what the court said, his friendship with Guido Penosi continued to be a big deal in the news. It wasn't just the hotel deal. It was about the kinds of people he was ready to work with to make his goals come true. People didn't know this Vegas. There was a darker side to the city here that even the greatest stars could see. This was just the start. In the 1980s, Wayne's business, which had been going great before, started to have even more problems. The crisis over the mob connections would be the start of the following year's bad economic times. Wayne would have to make choices that would further destroy the kingdom he had built in order to protect his money, businesses, and public image. The effects on money. Wayne Newton's Las Vegas business success wasn't built in a day. He had slowly built a life that was the very meaning of luxury over many years. But cracks were starting to show through the silk curtains. In the 1980s and 1990s, Newton was having more and more money problems, even though he was still playing almost every night and was famous and wealthy. Everything he had worked so hard to build would be in danger because of this problem. Spending too much money is what caused Wayne Newton's finances to fall apart. Wayne lived like a real Vegas mogul because he was one of the most famous acts in the world. Nothing seemed out of reach for him, from huge homes and fancy cars to a group of people who often traveled with him. But all of these nice things cost money, and Wayne wasn't very good at managing his money. When the 1990s and early 2000s came around, Newton owed a lot of money in taxes and bills. The Internal Revenue Service was bound to come calling at some point, requesting payments that Wayne couldn't make. In 1992, Wayne was said to face between $20 million, 0 cents, and over $341,000, 0 cents in back taxes and an unmanageable amount of debt. Wayne had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in order to fix his debts because things got so bad. Chapter 11 bankruptcy lets a person or business keep running while reorganizing debt, but it was embarrassing for the performer. No longer was Wayne's money problem just a private business. They were made public right away. His bankruptcy procedures were widely covered by the media, which turned what had been an inspiring career into a warning about the risks of spending too much and not managing money well. Things didn't get better after that, though. It was more than just taxes and bills piling up. He seemed to be sued everywhere he went, which used up even more of his money. People who Wayne owed money to kept going after him in court. The people were shocked. People all over the world loved Wayne Newton's music, but now he had to deal with the real effects of his uncontrolled spending. But Wayne was determined not to give up, even though there was a lot of pressure and cases. He wasn't going to let his falling finances end his career, so he kept acting night after night to try to make the money he needed to pay off his huge amount of debt. But the choice to keep acting was like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it gave him the money he needed to pay his bills. That being said, Wayne had to work harder than ever while also having to deal with the shame of his public financial problem. What had been a celebration of his skills felt like a desperate attempt to keep up with his responsibilities and keep up with his lifestyle. But Wayne's success wasn't the only one being hurt by the money problems. They were also hurting his relationships with other people. He was no longer just having problems on stage or in boardrooms. They had gotten into a lot of his personal things, putting a strain on relationships and friendships he had depended on for years. Take his friendship with fellow performer Tony Orlando, which goes back a long time. They used to have an unbreakable bond because they respected each other and had worked together for years in the show business. But things started to go badly as Wayne's money problems got worse. A few of his close friends and family began to doubt his choices and wonder if his way of life was more of a burden than a help. But what happened with Tony Orlando was just one of many relationships that would become tense and difficult as Wayne's bad money decisions turned out to be more obvious. His money problems got worse, and so did the cracks in his group. Wayne was about to find out that fame doesn't always bring money. Tony Orlando and the charge of bugging. Wayne Newton's work started to change in the late 1990s. He was no longer just the singer and Vegas star. He was getting involved in a lot of different businesses with other artists. During this time, one of his bravest moves was to work with Tony Orlando, a famous singer and TV host, on a new Las Vegas theater project. They called it The Talk of the Town, which came from their names, and they wanted it to become a popular place to have fun. With 2,100 seats, the plan was big. They wanted to get a lot of people to come and make their mark on the Las Vegas Strip. But their new business wasn't nearly as exciting as they had thought it would be. An issue with participation has been present from the start. There were never more than 1,000 people in the theater at a time. There were a lot of empty seats, missed chances, and money lost because of that. Things kept getting worse over the months, and it was clear that their business wasn't doing as well as they had hoped. Their finances were getting worse because there weren't many people there. Eventually, they couldn't even pay the $1 million rent they had agreed to for the place. Things went very badly when Orlando's son found out something shocking. As if the money problems weren't bad enough already, in the office that he and Newton shared, he found a bunch of recording devices that were hidden around the room. The news got to Tony Orlando quickly, and he was very angry. He said Wayne Newton was watching him, suggesting that Newton was listening in on his private talks without his knowledge. This claim came as a huge surprise. Tony was upset and he didn't waste any time. When he asked Wayne about the bugging devices, Newton said he had nothing to do with them, but the damage was already done even though he denied it. There was no longer any trust between them, and Tony quickly quit the business. He broke up with Wayne professionally, and things went badly very quickly. Wayne was devastated when he lost Tony Orlando as a business partner. Tony was a big name in Las Vegas's entertainment scene, and having him on his side could have helped his job and reputation.